scrappy people, it's Tracy Reed here today, and I am going to be scrapbooking this photo of my teenager and his obsession with Taco Bell. Oh my gosh, just like he bought this shirt because he loves Taco Bell so much. And I was looking at this photo going, how am I going to scrapbook it? It's just a silly photo, not even a great photo, but it's very indicative of who he is. And I was super inspired by this super retro shirt that he's got on. So what I decided to do is I'm going to mimic the shirt with my design. And I've only thought so far as like the colors and the triangles. So we're going to work together here. But I'm pulling in a bunch of Citrus Twist stuff that I have gotten recently from them. It's a bunch of collections because I really wanted to pull in the colors. So you can see I've got the green and the yellow here. I've got just a touch of purple in this bookmark. I think I used the majority of the purple that I have already, so that is why I've only got a little bit. And you can see that there's a little bit of pink in the bag, so I'm going to pull in a little bit of pink too because this card says feel the love, and then I've got a couple more cards. These are all from the handcrafted collection. And then some pink here, purple alphabet. We've got a lot going on. And then I have this stamp that I haven't used yet that I got from Citrus Twist that is all about food. So of course there's a taco here. We've got good food, good mood, get in my belly. So there's a lot of stuff on here that I can incorporate. So I'm thinking of incorporating these stamps into the design with the triangles. So I'm working with a life crafted size page. So that's not a lot of room. So we're gonna make it work. We're gonna try to make it work. Oh, what did I do here? Oh well, we'll figure it out. So we're gonna try and make it work. I've got sort of a large photo because I wanted to really focus on the photo. So I think the majority of my design is going to go over here. So that is what we're working with. That's where we're starting. So let's go. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up dramatically in a second because it did take me quite a while, but you can see that I am just basically taking these papers and cutting them into triangles, except for this card, which I do cut into not quite a triangle, but I am going to change that just a little bit in a minute. But I knew I wanted that Feel the Love card to be the centerpiece of this side of the page, and I still didn't quite have an actual idea of what I wanted to do other than building this page around the center card, but I end up making the whole page a collage, a sort of mosaic of these triangles. And you can see as I go along that it is just basically trial and error, cutting pieces, lining them up, moving them around, and making it work. And it actually came out way, way, way cooler than I thought it was going to, which is funny to me. But is it perfect? Absolutely not. Does it line up, perfectly in every spot? Are there a little bit of awkward angles? Are there weird lines? Sure, but nobody's going to look at that but me. So I tried to be gentle with myself and make sure that I was just having fun with it, which I really was. This was a super fun page to make. I love how it turned out. It's one of my favorites this year, probably. So that's really fun and cool. So you can see my main goal, or like the main way that I approached this, was to have straight, even lines between each one of these paper strips. So if the paper strip lined up with one of the other papers on another side, I wanted to make sure that it either lined up with the one like next to it as well, so that the lines were parallel, the white line was parallel, right? Or I filled in the space with another triangle to make the lines parallel. So you can see how I'm doing that down here in this bottom corner. I'm making sure that the purple lined up with the pink, and now I'm going to move the yellow and green just slightly, and then I will stick another triangle in that gap so that it fills up. And you can see it's just like putting a puzzle together. Sometimes you have to sit and have some creative play without like a super thought out plan to begin with. Like I had a plan, obviously, but it wasn't like super planned out. I didn't cut these on my silhouette and make them perfect, although I could have definitely done that as well. But I just went at it and stood there for, I think this probably took me about 20 minutes, stood there for 20 minutes and enjoyed the process and had a lot of fun. So You can see it's coming together now. I'm also trying to make sure that I am spacing out my colors appropriately and there's not really too many colors close to each other. I'm only working with 4 colors, right? So I have to be aware of what colors I'm using where, because I really, the most important thing for me is to not really have any of the same color touching. So I wanted to make sure that they were also like spread out evenly. So I'm adding a little bit of yellow here to make sure that there's enough yellow on the page. And I'm working with progressively smaller pieces, and I'm going to use the rest of those triangles, those little tiny triangles, on the right hand side. So now that I've gotten to a good place with the left hand side, I'm going to start building the right hand side. So my photo is obviously a little bit large. I could have made it smaller, but I didn't, and I didn't want to reprint it. So I'm going to cut down this journal card. I'm going to remove all the excess white and just make it sort of a post-it note, and I'm going to layer it behind the photo. And then I'm going to use these really cool stamps. And I thought I was going to do something more complicated to begin with. You can see I pull off this good food, good mood stamp. But I decided instead that I'm just going to use the taco and the stamp that says get in my belly. And I'm going to make a few little, I was going to make a pattern, but I decided it was going to be too much. So I'm going to make a few stamps here and there. I'm using a pencil to mark off the edges of where my photo and my journaling card are going to be, so that I don't waste time and effort stamping behind them too much. I do want them to collage behind my photo and my journaling card, but not too much. So I'm going to stamp it in 3 places on the bottom and 3 places on the top, and then after I start assembling the rest of the page, I will add more to it. So I just kind of want them to match. So I'm just making sure that they sort of do. These top ones are going to get covered up a little bit more than the bottom ones, but this has such a vintage 90s retro vibe, and oh my god, the 90s are retro. But I just, it makes me so happy. Like a cohesive design like this, where like I went in with intention and came out with something exactly what I wanted, just feels so good. So I'm going to take these little triangles and I'm going to start incorporating them into the stamped portions, and I'm going to do this sort of overlapping vibe like what is actually on his shirt. So you can see that they're overlapping. There's larger ones, there's smaller ones, and that's kind of what I'm going to do up here. I'm going to add a few to begin with, and then I will add a couple more once I get toward the end of the page, just to fill in some space. I'm using liquid glue. I'm using a really porous cardstock, which is hard to reposition things on, but it's the cardstock I have, and I want to go through it before I buy more cardstock. So it's hard to reposition things, and it does like rip up the page when I pull up things, which, you know, if you watched any of my videos, I pull up things a lot. So I do have to be very conscious of where I'm putting these and try and get it as right as possible the first time, which of course I don't, but I get it pretty well, pretty right. So I'm going to add in a couple more tacos now that I've got these triangles down. Tried to pull up this photo, but like I said, porous paper, so I'm just going to use a scratch paper to make sure I don't stamp on my photo. So good. Doesn't it look like straight out of a 90s ad? It makes me so happy. Okay, so I decided to use this purple alphabet from Citrus Twist to add in my title on the right hand side, and I'm going to do it vertically along the page, and it's going to say hashtag Fanboy. I added in my journaling, and I'm going to do a word strip and call it good. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. There is a link to Citrus Twist in the comment section below, or in the description box below, but this is definitely a mix of a bunch of products from their store, so I'll try and find as many as possible. Lastly, let me know in the description box below if you ever do anything like this, where like you're inspired by the design on a shirt or in an ad, or like the vibes of something retro feeling, that sort of a thing. I find it really interesting, and I really don't do it often enough. All right. Thank you. See you later. Bye.